Beautiful Cape Town this morning. You've just heard Rob as well. He was, of course, giving us our traffic update, and he's based here in Cape Town. Well, I can tell you something. I left a rainy Johannesburg yesterday. It was pouring once I got onto my flight, and then I arrived in Cape Town to probably about 29, 30 degrees. So it is magnificent here in the mother city, and I can tell you everybody's descending on Cape Town now to hear the budget speech. It's 2017. The national budget is going to be announced by our Finance Minister, Pravin Gordhan, this afternoon sometime. And of course, that's going to be covered live here on SABC. And a lot of attention is going to be given to the Finance Minister as he takes to that podium. And he basically tells us exactly what he's going to be doing with our money, where he's going to allocate it, and which causes, of course, he feels needs it most. Now, you know, in the days previous to the Finance Ministry that we know now, of course, Trevor Manuel was heading up the Finance Department. They were pretty boring speeches, weren't they? Nobody really sort of anticipated too much. We were just hoping that there'd be some tax relief, and we were hoping for the best. Well, these days, the attention on the budget is massive, and it's nowhere like the days of our former Trevor Manuel. Of course, our Finance Minister, Pravin Gordhan, has got a lot more pressure on his shoulders when it comes to the economic situation we as South Africans find ourselves, also in the global perspective as well. So he's got a fine balancing act, and in and amongst that is, of course, the politics of the day, and that's always hanging over his head, and something we'll take a look at as well. This morning we're going to dissect the budget as much as we can. We're going to be getting a panel of guests assembled from all aspects of life, whether it be education, housing, we can talk about policing, we can talk about health, we can talk about all aspects, including our taxes, and that's what we've got for you this morning, and their hopes, their dreams, and also those young kids that get together and they predict what the budget will look like. I call them young kids, but they're absolute geniuses. So we'll be chatting to them as well about their expectations. But you know, there's a lot of work that goes into the budget, as you can well imagine. So we decided to start this broadcast this morning from Parliament with a look at the work that goes in to the budget that'll be announced this afternoon. Take a look.
National Treasury brings out this publication every February following the Finance Minister's budget speech, and it gives details to the points he highlights.
Essentially, at the beginning of the budget process, we issue guidelines to departments and we tell them what the imperatives are of the budget in this particular round and what the priorities are that they should focus on. We then get formal submissions from them and go into rounds of various decision-making meetings. We have what we call function groups, which are groups of departments with a similar function. We meet as these departments, look at the budgets of all the departments that comprise that function, and then look at how we could work better.
The budgetary process takes about a year and involves consultations with cabinet, provinces, and all the different government and affected stakeholders.
Basic education, the national department, has been able to stick to their budget fairly well. We don't really have a problem with overspending in the national spheres generally, and they haven't either. One area where they have struggled to spend according to plan has been around, there's a school infrastructure backlogs grant, and that grant in particular has underspent over the years.
Although the bug stops in this room at the Treasury in Pretoria, the Minister has to take inputs from his diverse and highly specialised committee.
Liability management's role is to ensure that the government borrowing requirement is financed. And the reason why we have the borrowing requirement, Michael has already alluded to some of the trade-offs that we have to do, and it does result in some extent, some level of borrowing cost that results from the borrowing that we do. So servicing of the debt, ensuring that the financing is met on an annual basis.
The borrowing costs are determined by a good rating or a bad rating. I always use the example of a household going to borrow from Standard Bank, where they get good ratings, they get tea when they get there, they get greeted at the door. You know, that is a positive or an investment grade rating. But if you start going to sub-investment, basically you will be going to a mashonisa. You get there, there's long queues, you have to have a fridge or a microwave or your ID, because the cost of borrowing is going to be so high because you're not credit worthy.
So, what will Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan put emphasis on this year?
Today, people throughout the world and in South Africa are watching all of us. We're very aware of that. And watching the rich people and saying, why are they able to get so much of money? Where's my benefit? Where's my job? Where's the opportunity for my children to be educated better and trained better so that they will not live in the same poverty that I'm living in as well? So that's the South African economy. Then we come to the real money, because you can only spend what you have. If you have 10 rands in your pocket, you can't spend 12 rands.
In this room, a group of interns are conducting last-minute checks for accuracy of figures and content.
Most people, when they read, they just go straight to the numbers. But then I will advise them to just read the whole thing so that you get the content of it.
Last October's medium-term statement revised economic growth to a worrying 0.5%. Amid all the talk of growing entrepreneurship and business ideas, meaningful impact on jobs and the economy is yet to be felt.